Hi everyone! So we're going to answer another question here, and this one is from Abdurazak. I am so sorry for butchering your name. I know I butchered it. Hi if you're watching. You guys, please forgive me if you ask a question and then I do a video for it. Please forgive me for butchering your name. Some of your guys' names are very hard to pronounce, and some of the YouTube names that you guys go by are very hard to pronounce too. So I'm sorry. I'm really, really sorry. But so he asked, what is the difference between a dressing and a dip and a sauce and a soup, please? This is a good question for a whole new video. Thank you for your time. I highly agree. I highly agree with you because I think that topic makes for a wonderful video. I never really thought of this because I have always thought that they're really, well, I know there's a distinction between dressings, sauces, dips, and soups, and smoothies, and juices, and but I never really cared, I really never cared about the difference between them, because I know when I create my own personal raw recipes and share it with you guys, sometimes I don't even know if it's a dressing or a sauce, because a dressing and a sauce can kind of be the same thing almost. And so I know you just make it your own. You just make it your own. But for the sake of this video and answering the question here, I looked it up. So I Googled, you guys. I Googled a sauce. Now, a sauce is something that requires cooking or heating to create, whereas a dressing is an uncooked mixture, such as a vinaigrette salad dressing. Okay, so that's what a couple other sources kind of generally said that same thing, but then there were some other sources that said, just kind of generally went an overview on it of like a dressing is more liquid, more pourable, I guess. It's more citrusy, more tangy and zesty on the zesty side, and then a sauce is much more thicker than a dressing, obviously, so they're referring to like a spaghetti sauce or like those types of sauces, or a creamy sauce, but it's pourable, but it's thicker than an actual dressing. And when they were talking about dressings, they were saying a dressing is generally your mixture is generally called a dressing if you're pouring it over leafy greens, essentially a salad. And when online, when they're referring to a salad, they're referring to leafy greens. And mind you, again, this is coming from, of course, a lot of other people who write blogs and stuff like that and different articles. So they're coming from a standpoint of cooked foods. Okay, they're coming from a standpoint of cooked foods and everything. And in the raw food arena, it can kind of go the same way, but just without the use of cooking or heating. And so then they also said like a dip is more on the much thicker side. So a dip is definitely thicker than a dressing, obviously, but definitely thicker than a sauce. So when you take your little goodies, and dip it in your dip, the dip doesn't slide off your goodies. It's thick enough to where it stays on the goodies that you're dipping with, so that's classified as an actual dip. And then of course, when they're talking about a soup, generally most people are referring a soup as to a mixture that is heated. When people think of a soup, they think of hot, like hot and warm, and they're relating a soup to something that's warm, like the chicken noodle soup, minestrone soup, all these other tomato soups and everything. They're referring it to, or everybody's mind kind of goes to, oh, that's a soup is something warm and hot, but actually a soup can be anything. There are such a thing as cold soups, but you can definitely make raw soups for sure. You can make raw soups, and they aren't cold. They're at room temperature. I mean, that's the way you really want to kind of eat your food. I mean, and because it just does not make sense. Side note here, people, is people cook their foods and everything, but they have to blow on it to cool it down, to kind of get it down to room temperature. So why would you heat it up in the first place? That's one thing I've always thought of, that come on people, we kind of need to put this in perspective. But also there is a health issue involved with cooking food too. That's a whole another issue too. But that's why for eating soups and sauces and stuff, why not have it raw? It's so much better for you, but it's at room temperature to begin with, which is perfect. But also a soup is something where you can add chunky goodies to it, you know. So it's more, soup is more on the liquidy side, but it can be thick too, because everybody has heard of like split pea soup. That's like a thicker type soup. But it's a soup generally has goodies added to it, you know, other chopped veggies, and then if you're someone who still consumes meat and everything, they add meat, little bits of meat in there and everything. But like a soup has added like beans or can have sprouts in there. But on the raw food arena, a soup is kind of generally the same thing as the way people think of a soup, only it's raw. It's at room temperature, not heated, not cooked, and it has added veggies to it. It can be a vegetable liquid that you've made yourself through a juicer, and you can make your own tomato soups, raw tomato soups, and you can make your favorite soups you once used to love, and they'll actually taste a lot better in their raw state. So in my opinion, I think it really doesn't matter, but if you really kind of want to get down to specifics, a dressing is essentially a more liquid and pourable mixture, and it can be creamy, sweet, tangy, zesty, spicy, and savory. It could be however you want it. And let's see, we just did a dressing, and a sauce is generally just something that's thicker than a dressing, and your sauce that you make can go over leafy greens, and it can actually be classified as a dressing, but it can be also classified as a sauce, I guess. But it's generally has a thicker texture to it, and it can be creamy, sweet, zesty, tangy, spicy, or savory, however you want it. And then of course a dip, same with a dip. A dip is just thicker than a dressing, and it's it can be any flavor you want. And same with soups. Soups are actually generally just a liquid base with added goodies in there, you know. But make it what you want. Call it your own. Call it your own, whatever you want. I will stop babbling here, guys. I will let you guys go. Remember to love being raw. Put a big old smile on your face today. I hope I did that for you, and I'll see you guys next video, okay? Bye, guys.